Good morning and welcome to RISE2025 International Women's Day celebrations. My name is Rachel Petero and I'm here in Aotearoa in New Zealand, and I have one of my favourite people from Baltimore. I've got Torin Ellis joining me this morning. Good morning, Torin.
And I get to say good morning all the way from Baltimore, and I love being able to give you that good morning. And you, my dear, are my favorite individual from Australia and New Zealand. You got both covered.
Yay! Awesome. So let me just briefly talk about Torin and how we know each other. We met in January 2015, and actually very briefly it was in Miami. And Torin has gone on from there to go through the Top Recruiter 4 series with Chris Lavoie, and we're also catching up this year for the Top Recruiter 5 series in Paris and London. You know, it's just amazing. Torin is also a father and a role model, and he owns and runs his own recruitment consultancy, and it's really focused around diversity and inclusion, and that's what I love about him. We have the best conversations, and so this morning is really about sharing that conversation with the world. And so, Torin, I'm just going to hand over to you just to give a little bit of a Torin flavor to your introduction.
Certainly, and Top Recruiter was a phenomenal opportunity to meet you, Rachel, as well as so many other, esteemed professionals from our space, people that are committed to doing recruitment the right way, people that are focused on strategy. So I loved that meeting that you and I had. And I continue to do this particular work because it's mandatory that we do it. It's mandatory that we usher in conversations, comfortable and uncomfortable conversations around diversity, because it's inside of that moment, those particular moments, that we will be able to chase down the progress that each of us says that we want. And so I thank you for allowing me to share my voice with your audience, the broader audience around the entire world. Thank you again.
You're welcome. And on my YouTube channel, Torin and I had another really amazing conversation around diversity. So I'd really encourage people to go and click on rachelpetero.com. I've got a YouTube channel, and you'll pick up Torin's last interview that we did, and it was really powerful. So today we're celebrating women and in all our glory. Yeah, I celebrate being a woman every day. It is our right. It is our privilege, but it's also really good to stop and pause, on International Women's Day, and recognize, the women that have come before us and the women that are taking us into the future. So, Torin, who is the woman that you would like to acknowledge, who has inspired you and really supported you through your journey to today?
So I'll give you two, if you'll allow me, but directly the individual that inspired me the most would be none other than my mother. A beautiful individual who at the age of 30 had myself and my two sisters. I'm the oldest. But the thing that I remember most about my mother is that during those years of raising my sisters and I, she struggled to do what it took to take care of us. She was in the educational system, and so she was teaching classes. I can't remember the age group in which she taught, but in the evenings she would get side jobs to water plants at a local community college when we were growing up. My mother was willing to do anything that it took to continue to provide resources and finances and support for my father and for her 3 children. And she did such, to my knowledge, without any complaint. As I grew up, I learned later in life that there were people in her family that said that she would amount to nothing, that she would be nothing because she had a child when she was 18, me. And so to learn of that as an adult, and to watch what my mother did, and to watch her today living her quiet life down in Virginia, I'm always reminded of how much she gave of me, of herself, I should say, to me and to my sisters. And I have every single level of commitment to make sure that I give my mother back just a portion of what she did for us. Indirectly, the person that motivates me is Maya Angelou. And for so many various reasons, she's just a phenomenal figure, a spirit in life. And just this week, they denied her the opportunity to get her own stamp here in the US because they said that she was a communist. Maya was far from being a communist. Far from being a communist, she was an activist. She was a voice for the voiceless. She was encouragement for people who sought encouragement. A way with words, her presence, powerful. And so those are the two individuals that I cling to when I think about women and so many others. But those are the two that come to mind today.
Wow, that's so powerful. And thank you for sharing that, Torin. And a couple of things that I really resonate with me is my mum had me when she was 17. So, I know what she sacrificed. And my parents have been together for 45 years. And I'm sure, like your mother, they give us strength when you think of what they had to go through and endure to allow us to be, here on this stage that we find ourselves, in our work, with our families. So I hear you, and I acknowledge your mother as well.
Oh, well, thank you so much.
Maya Angelou, absolutely. And that information that you've just shared, that really set off an emotion for me, because, who are they to say that she was a communist? She was absolutely an activist for good. And so, wow, I'll be tweeting about that one because it's International Women's Day tomorrow. And as far as I'm concerned, she epitomizes what International Women's Day is all about. So,
absolutely. Thank
you for sharing that. I don't know if I've seen, I'm avid on Twitter looking at her account and things going on, but I had missed that.
No worries. I'm glad I was able to share.
Yeah, great. And so as you've grown into, the person that you are, and obviously you're a father as well. How has that relationship with your mother really impacted you as a parent?
So it showed me that, no matter what, you're never necessarily prepared, but that some way, somehow you will figure out how to make it work, how to make it right. And I think that the best job that I've ever had, the best piece of me is being able to become a father. And I was never really ready or prepared to be that individual. I always knew that I wanted to have children, but I never necessarily found myself ready, whether it was I didn't have enough money or my job wasn't right or it was too demanding at the time. My house wasn't big enough, didn't live in the right neighborhood. God forbid I can't give up my beautiful vehicle to get some van or station wagon. So, there was always something happening. But what I will tell you, Rachel, is that the best job that I have is being a father and being able to take my children to school each and every morning for the last 17, 16 years, being able to be at their events, wherever those events were, whenever those events took place, being there for them when they scraped their knee in school or when they got a little love note and it said that I didn't love you, whatever it is, those are the things that I smile and cherish. And I just hope that for my children that I've been that support, that rock of support for them, that person that they can come to. And so that when they begin to have children and develop their families, that they'll refer to me as being a positive influence in their life. So I take my job and my role as a father very seriously.
Fantastic. And, I'm not a parent, but I see, my sister who has 4 children, and the time and the effort and the love, I believe is what is some of the magic ingredients that parents bring versus the money, the house, the big car. It's the time and the love that you can wrap your children in that I believe is couple of the secret ingredients that I've seen from the parents that I know bring up very much value-based families and children.
And then the word no and punishment and restriction. You got to have both sides of the equation, Rachel. So certainly myself and others will help you when that time comes. But we got to make sure that we got to weigh the scale and make sure that it's balanced to make them a whole individual. So it all works.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So Torin, I've been reading the Global Gap Agenda and the report recently, and I was really shocked that the statistic that stood out for me is it's going to take 118 years to close that gap. And so for me, that really struck a chord. I'm not willing. I think I'm not accepting that. 118 years means, 4 or 5 generations, after me and my nieces, that generation, they can't wait 118 years. And so what do we need to do, today in this moment that will start changing that conversation? And the question I have for you is, broader sense, what do you believe men, what is the role of men to support decreasing that gap around gender diversity? What's your view, Torin?
So actually, let me do this. I'm reading a book right now. It talks about the industries of the future. And in this book, it highlights so much disruption that's sitting in front of us. Whether it be around genetic coding, whether it be around driverless automobiles, certainly around telecommunications, cybersecurity. That's what the book talks about, industries of the future, and it hinges on disruption. And so when you ask me what can men do, men can disrupt the conversation around parity for women. We are the ones that are in power in many instances. And notice that I say we, I'm not leaning on my diversity angle at this particular point. I'm just doing the gender piece. So if men are the ones that are in power in so many of these instances, then we have an obligation to disrupt the conversation around parity for women. We cannot be afraid to provide women with access, equal access to opportunity. We cannot be afraid to provide women with access to equal pay. We cannot be afraid to provide women with access to leadership, to management, to building teams, to being a part of the vision, the strategy. We must usher in that for women. And until we do that with women all around the world, then we will be, looking at reports similar to the one that you referenced a moment ago. We'll be reading reports like that 20 years from now. And that totally is unacceptable. And what I think that with this generation behind us, we have some ambitious and more motivated individuals, both men and women. And I think more of them subscribe to what you say, Rachel. They're not going to wait either.
Exactly. And we're seeing that, I'm here in New Zealand. I know in the States, and for me, Torin, there's a big focus, and it's always been my belief actually, is around the collectivism. Yeah, so it's all around bringing disruptive groups together who are about progress, who are about everyone rising together. Hence, RISE2025 is about bringing the collective of Indigenous women as leaders together, no matter where you are in the world, to really have that voice and that place in that leadership space. So what's your view on collectivism and collective leadership?
Well, it's definitely important. I don't think that anyone can do this thing alone. And I think when you use the word collective, it's a spirited word. It's a positive word. It's a bonding word. It's the sinew that gets us from where we are now to where we'd like to be. Collectively, we get to move forward and make progress. And so I'm a fan of such, and I've never been the person who says I should go alone. Now, guilty, because I have, for much of my entrepreneurial time, I've been alone. But I've always told my friends that the one thing that I'm missing is a team. I miss having a team like I used to have in 1998. And my goal of course, selfishly, Rachel, is to have a team by the end of 2016, because I know the power of being a part of a team.
Fantastic. And I feel you in terms of that entrepreneurial side of what we do. And it can be lonely. And my thing is, I've never really felt alone. I've just felt a bit lonely at times. So because I've always had these amazing networks around that you can sort of tap into. But that concept of team, I agree with you. And like you, I have decided to take that first step on into team and building a great collective this year. So we're on the same path.
Absolutely. And we have 10 months to go. Well, 9.5 months to go. So we got to get to it, right?
Right. We're on it. So thank you for sharing that. And so as men, those disruptive conversations will start to change the paradigm of where we're moving to and really start to make a difference. And then your particular pledge for parity, Torin, what would that be? What's your personal pledge for parity this year?
So personally, for me, it's pretty simple. The response is simple. It's the action that I have to take that causes me a bit of challenge. And here's what it is. I'm guilty because I have certain biases as it relates to gender and being able to do and perform in certain capacities. For instance, as I was driving back to my home from lacrosse practice today, there were 8 fire trucks because the house was on fire. And not one individual fire person that I saw was a woman. And I was okay with that because I'm thinking about the danger. I'm thinking about the hoses and the water and jumping off of the truck, and it's in the middle of the winter and all that other great stuff here in Baltimore. There was no opposition personally as I'm riding by that scene to have women on the scene trying to put that fire out. So when you ask me what's my personal objective for parity, it's to try to minimize my biases as it relates to the roles that women can perform, to not discount them from opportunities based on my own perceptions or reality or understanding of the role, but to allow them to self-select. And if they wish to be a part of such, to allow them to go through that process and be able to be scrutinized and evaluated just like any other candidate would be evaluated. And while I'm not the individual who is in the ultimate hiring decision, I merely place talent in front of people. I'm going to do all that I can to remove my biases, if you will, from those scenarios. Now, mind you, I do say that I operate pretty well because I don't recruit for fire people. I recruit for technology and sales and positions like that. So I don't really struggle as it relates to presenting gender diversity. But I'm just simply saying, I know honestly that I carry some bias with all of the empathy and authenticity that I operate with. I know that I carry a bit of a bias. And so I need to make sure that I'm able to separate myself from that bias. And I'm committed to doing that.
Fantastic. And we all have biases. No matter how empathetic, how we operate in this diverse world that we find ourselves, we all have biases. I think the trick is, the awareness. Is the awareness
absolutely.
To understand that is where it comes from, and be able to notice it when it turns up, and hopefully move through that as you get even more awareness.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. And, what do we have power to control?
Well, ourselves.
Exactly. So I love that is your personal pledge for parity. So thank you for sharing that. And on a more long-term perspective, we are meeting up in Paris and
Looking
London.
forward to it. Yes.
In July. And I think that's going to be a really powerful time for the Top Recruiter 5 contestants, whoever they may be. What's your role going to be, Torin?
So as reigning champion of Top Recruiter Season 4, Reign of the Bosses, I actually have the opportunity of serving as an advisor. I get to be an advisor to the North American team to make sure that we are well positioned, that they have counsel, that they have a sounding board to bounce ideas off of. If anyone knows Chris Lavoie, the producer of the Top Recruiter series, you know that he's going to turn up the competition. He's going to turn up the production 2 or 3 notches, and to take the competition from Miami to London and to Paris is an off the top signal that he is pulling out all stops. And so I think that in my capacity, I'm going to do all that I can to fortify the North American team to make sure that they put forth a very good presentation and they show the audience that they deserve to be the winning team of Top Recruiters. So I'm looking forward to TR5 in London and Paris.
And I'll be there in a new capacity of being the coach, which is really exciting for me. It's what I love. It's something that I think will really add value to the Top Recruiter series. And I look forward to working with you there and everyone over that week.
Absolutely. And might I add that I'm looking forward to meeting the contestants and all of the advisors and the bosses from the European side as well. So while I may, have my allegiance and support here on the North American side, I come, in the spirit of humanity. And I'm certainly looking forward to meeting all of these esteemed individuals that are going to be participating with us.
Fantastic. And then for this year, in terms of RISE 2025, we've started here in New Zealand in terms of galvanizing Māori, Pacific Island and Asian women to come through the RISE 2025 program. It's fantastic, and it's a real honor to go through this journey with the women that have signed up. And I know that our intention is out there in the universe, and in terms of Indigenous women globally, Torin, I'm looking across the world. America is somewhere that I want to come as well, and to galvanize and to support Indigenous women all over the world. So I see us working together. I have always, from the day that I've met you. We continue to do it virtually. We'll meet each other in July physically. And from there, I can see great things happening.
Well, I'll tell you, I'll give you a little secret. I just popped out an email this week. I won't say to who, but it's in reference to one of the exchanges that you and I shared on Facebook about 6 months ago, 5 or 6 months ago. And we're going to see if we can begin to put the wheels in motion to make something magical happen. So cross your fingers and, look at your calendar for fall of 2016. We may have you in New York.
Wow, that would be amazing. That would have been amazing. Thank you. And so part of my this series in particular, I'd like to acknowledge you, Torin, for everything that you do in the space of diversity. I'd like to acknowledge you and salute you for being that role model for your people, for your tribe, and for your family. And really, I am honored to be in your company and to have you in my life. And I know that is a lifelong friendship that we will have. So thank you for agreeing to come on today, and I wish you and all your family the best week, celebrating, and the best life.
Absolutely. And here, in the U.S., it's Women's History Month, something that's not even 20 years old yet. And so it was actually ratified here in Congress in 1987. And so this entire month, it's all about women. I'm going to be moderating a panel in New York City next week for the strategic imperative of diversity. And it's a room full of about 300, 350 women, all in strategic positions of leadership. And so I'm honored that you've allowed me to participate with you and with your audience. I'm looking forward to New York City. I'm looking forward to you. And for all of the people that are watching this series and the rest of the series that Rachel participates and produces, I want to say hats off to you. Salute, salute, salute.
Oh, thank you, Torin, and I'll be watching you moderating for the conference. I took that down in my diary, so I will be absolutely tweeting and putting it out there. And this particular interview, how can they come and connect with you? You've got a radio station now, haven't you?
So I don't have a station, but I do participate on a station that can be heard around the world. If you go to your Android or iOS or some other device, you can download the Sirius XM, SIRIUS XM, the Sirius XM app. But yes, Rachel, you can hear me every single Monday on the Karen Hunter Show, channel 126 in the 4 p.m. hour, 4 p.m. Eastern time. And each and every week, we talk about career development, we talk about diversity, we talk about disruption, all things that impact the person becoming a better professional. And so if you are an individual who wants to hear the voice and hear an intelligent conversation, download the Sirius XM app and find the Karen Hunter Show on Sirius XM channel 126.
Fantastic. I will be downloading the app directly after this interview. And on that note, thank you so much. If anyone wants to connect with RISE 2025, it's RISE2025.com. And I look forward to connecting with more global leaders across the world during the course of this week. Thank you, Torin, and have a wonderful week.
Thank you, Rachel.